Hello again, and welcome back. This is Jen with Aging Advantage, and I am so happy to have you here for part three of our mood, memory, and meaning series. And again, welcome to part three. Um, if you've been with us for parts one and parts two, thank you for sticking with us for this part. And if this is your first time joining, welcome. With this series, it builds on each other. And today's presentation can obviously stand on its own as well. But in our first two presentations, we talked about deep connection between mood and brain health. We explored the difference between normal memory changes and signs that you might want to take a closer look that something might not be correct and something else kind of might be starting to go on. In today's presentation, we are going to be shifting gears towards something more practical and kind of more helpful and a more positive light note. This presentation is really going to be all about like actions and things that you can control, things that you can do, everyday activities, like example, like music or your environment, reading, social engagement, and how they can, how people can like help to nurture their memory, and lift their mood and just strengthen the brain really like at any age of life. And, my hope is today that you'll leave with a real doable, implementable ideas and some strategies that you can start using this week. So before we begin, really quickly, let's recap who is Aging Advantage. So Aging Advantage is a non-for-profit organization here in the St. Louis area that supports seniors and disabled adults. And we do that through local grants and donations. We're able to offer programs like this that help with education, to help with the effects of post-pandemic situations like housing and food insecurities, isolation issues, and through partnerships with incredible, organizations, etc., we're able to provide educational topics that can really help to promote self-care and resilience. And today, again, we're doing the part three of this mood, memory, and meaning. And so just get cozy and get comfy and grab whatever you're drinking and settle in and let's get started. So mood, memory, and meaning. Let's do the part three here. Hold on 1 second for me. Okay, so again, this is officially going to be our part three. So everything we covered today is meant to be practical. So things you can actually incorporate into your daily routine, not just abstract ideas. So as we go, I'd like to encourage you to think about which of these activities already show up in your life and which ones you're like, that's interesting. Maybe I want to add that. So maybe grab a pen and piece of paper and take some notes. If you see anything that, again, looks engaging potentially to you, or you like the idea of possibly incorporating it, write it down. So let's begin with the big picture here. So over the next half hour or so, we're going to explore how everyday activities like music, movement, reading, and social engagement can nurture memory, lift your mood, and strengthen the brain at every age. None of what we're about to cover requires like special equipment or a big, huge lifestyle overhaul. And so I love that. These are just going to be, simple, accessible activities And that's exactly the point. So, brain wellness does not have to be complicated. So, first and foremost, please know that. Let's start with one of my favorite topics and ideas, which is music. Music activates emotional and memory centers within the brain. So, both of those. So, reminiscing through song and stories provides identity and cognitive engagement. And it can lift your mood and spark some cherished memories. And I think, when we break that down a little bit further, first, music stimulates memory and emotional recall. And an example of that would be like, have you ever heard a song from decades ago? And then suddenly you're transported right back to that moment, right where you were, who you were with, and how you felt. And that's not coincidence. From a scientific perspective, music has a unique way of unlocking memories like that, that other things, simply just do not. Second, reminisce. So think about, the act of remembering or sharing stories from the past. It promotes identity and also connection. So talking about our history, our families, and the songs that shaped our lives can really help to reinforce that sense of identity and, that sense of who we are still today. And third, both of those together, so music and reminiscence, support brain wellness and also your mood. So here's like a simple idea to remember. Consider putting together a playlist, maybe, of songs from your younger years or a favorite era of music. And even just 15 minutes of listening can be a wonderful, gentle boost for both your mood and your memory. And I think one of the really cool examples of this also too is that, some people still have record players, right? There are still record players around. And, it was kind of fun because growing up, like during the holidays, we'd have a record player at one of the family members' houses, and we had one at my own house as well. But we never really used it as much at my family's house. But at this particular family member's house, it seemed like, when we would go over there again, for Christmas or, just different holidays, they would get out different records and everybody, would go over to the stacks of records and get out and dig through different records or vinyls, as they call them, I guess. And we would just play some of the different records. And some of them, again, during Christmas time frame, were Christmas songs and, different Christmas albums. And it was just really fun. Other times I remember even like at Easter, there was like different, records again that I don't know how or why, but like we had for Easter time and it was fun and people would dance around and stuff like that in their basement. And it was just such a great time. And it was just neat also too, to see grandma and grandpa and some of the, like great aunts and uncles and stuff like that. Some of the older generation really just like light up and perk up when certain songs came on and things like that. And again, it was just really, really fun. So that's kind of, a lost art that is fun that you can play with. And again, there are record players all over the place still. And even now there's like digital kind of ish looking record players, very like high-techy looking ones that are kind of neat. Another thing too with music is, I did a education topic several several videos ago But, and I shared different apps, helpful apps for seniors. And obviously, there are so many music apps, right? It's like your Spotify's and things like that. There's just like Apple Music but all different kinds of things. Even on, this is really, really cool as well. So even on YouTube, you can go on YouTube and, search your favorite artist, whoever that was, even back in the day. And sometimes they'll even have whole entire concerts that will be uploaded into YouTube. Sometimes I'll break them out, into individual songs, and sometimes it'll literally be the entire concert that they will play. And so sometimes, again, that can be really fun, to reminisce. And as well, kind of 2.0 of that, they also make adapters nowadays too, to be able to have you connect, either your, like a laptop computer or something like that, or even your cell phone or a tablet. If like let's say you have YouTube pulled up on, your cell phone or something or a tablet, there are connectors now that you can connect your cell phone to your TV, and you can, play music or songs or whatever through there, but also the smart TVs as well. A lot of times we'll have, YouTube that you can access through that, or also different, again, Spotify, but different, like channels of music that you can play even like right through your TV. And so that's kind of fun too, because again, even from a social connection standpoint, that is a blast. So you can get, several people together, maybe like all of you, from your same era, or maybe your same family, your first concert that several people went to, was a particular artist, and you can like pull that concert up and watch that, together as a group in the nice, comfy living room, all together. And so, again, there's just a lot of different ways that you can incorporate music. Sometimes people will also listen to music through like Alexa or something like that. If they have like in their kitchen when they're cooking, they'll kind of be dancing around, etc. But other people, will listen to music like while they're, taking a shower in the morning to kind of like start their day off right. Or other people too will also use music and sound, as ways to like, meditate and listen to calming things, or you can play like binaural beats and different things like that to activate different brain waves, etc. So, there's just so many different ways, again, that music and sound can really just stimulate memory, again, that kind of emotional recall. But ultimately, when you're doing it, just remember you're doing good stuff, because you are absolutely, supporting brain wellness and, your mood. Next, let's talk about reading and puzzles. So, two classic favorites for a reason. So, with these activities, you have to have sustained attention, obviously. You have to do problem solving, and it helps build neuroplasticity. So let's dive into what do those mean. So sustained attention, and this is where, reading can be great for this, because reading encourages deep focus and comprehension, strengthening the brain's ability to concentrate over extended periods of time. So even just a chapter a day can really help to exercise this skill. Some people I know, will even just do like a page or two a day. But again, making reading at some point in your day just a little piece of your daily activities of what you do is an absolute great habit to get into. So I would challenge you, if you don't, read now, think about a way that you could incorporate it into your day. So again, maybe that is, you wake up, you get ready, you eat your breakfast, you drink your coffee, and then you sit down, maybe you do your journaling then. And, then right after that, while you're doing your morning coffee, get out your book and you can read a book. You can also do audio books as well. So if your eyesight or your, ability to be able to read isn't that great anymore, you can also, again, through all the awesome technology that there is now, like on your phones and on tablets, etc., you can listen to an audiobook if you'd, rather kind of engage that way. But definitely there's something to be said about, holding the book, I think, too, or holding something, whether you're reading a book, quote unquote, reading the book, right? Not in a book though, like you can read a book on a Kindle, like tablet. You can, do it on an iPad, again, on your phone, on the computer. There's a lot of different ways that you can access books nowadays. And the library, the Libby app, again, if you go back and check out that, helpful apps for seniors video I did, the Libby app is amazing because that will connect you to your local library and then also other libraries all over the place, literally. Um, and you can download ebooks, is what they're called, for you to be able to listen to on your phone, or read on your phone, or you can read on your tablet or something like that as well. So, yeah, those resources are really, really great in terms of reading, but also reading, just under this category as well. The libraries have incredible resources for seniors. So they have books that are large print. They even have books and things like that are braille. They have all kinds of different resources. And the other incredible thing and service that the library provides that a lot of people don't realize or recognize is that they can also deliver to your house, which is awesome. Um, they can, yeah, deliver the new stuff to you, take your old stuff away, and you can just keep on reading and keep on learning. So, really quite fun. So I would challenge you again, even if it's just like a page or two, doesn't even have to be a whole chapter, but look at where you can put reading it. Maybe it's at night when you are kind of settling in, getting ready for bed. Maybe you read a chapter in bed or right before you climb in bed. So next, problem solving. So puzzles and brain games enhance problem solving skills and reinforce memory pathways through active mental engagement. So crossword puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, Sudoku, whatever kinds of things appeal to you, but they're all great because they're doing real work in your brain behind the scenes, which we love. Neuroplasticity. So that is a very big fancy word. So let's break that down. But it's a wonderful concept because reading and puzzles both help promote neuroplasticity, which means like the brain's ability to form new connections and adapt throughout life. So this is important because it tells us something absolutely hopeful, that our brains are not fixed. So they continue to grow and adapt no matter our age. So, however your brain, quote unquote, health or wellness is right now, you have the ability to change that, to grow it, and to make it better and improve your brain. And, and I think that is just highly encouraging. So, I would challenge you again, if you already have a favorite book on your nightstand or a puzzle like half finished on the table, consider this your gentle encouragement, if you will, to pick it back up and keep going. Learning new skills. So let's talk about something that might feel a little more challenging, but incredibly powerful. Learning new hobbies or skills actively will challenge the brain, building cognitive reserve and also adaptability. Whether it's picking up a new language, exploring crafts, or embracing technology, new experiences stimulate neural pathways and support long term brain health. And I know for some of you, like the idea of learning something brand new, especially technology things, can feel overwhelming and intimidating and terrifying, massively anxiety producing for a lot of people. And a lot of people, especially as they age, feel very hopeless around learning, being able to like learn new technology. But I get it, and it's completely understandable. But here's like the encouraging part I want you guys to know. It's it's not about being an expert. Like you don't have to be great at these things. You just have to start. So it's just really about the act of learning itself. And again, you don't have to get it right, but the process of challenging your brain in a new way, trying to figure out something new is what we're going for here. So that's the outcome we're wanting. But even, small steps count. So for example, that could be like trying a new recipe. That actually would be a very fun activity. But trying a new recipe, learning a few words in another language, maybe, or figuring out a new app on your phone are all, wonderful examples of this, when it comes to technology. Social interaction. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's worth revisiting for sure here as actionable strategies. So again, social interactions. How do we do this? So mood and cognition. Group activities are what we're looking for here, and social clubs can absolutely improve our mood and sharpen cognitive function through shared engagement. And, again, we talked about this before, but when you, again, are in a group setting, you are going to be observing other people and things that are going on. You're going to be interacting with those things, thus the communication and connection part. So, regular interaction will help to encourage meaningful conversation, which helps to reduce the feelings of isolation and also stimulates the brain. And when we have different conversations like this, again, or we're in a social environment with other people, we're being aware and being observational, what's going on around us. We're listening to other people's conversations. We are, being empathetic. We are providing support. We are problem solving. We are thinking. We mentally, have to formulate what type of response, that we want to say or how we would want to act or, things that we would want to do maybe also to help support that person. And maybe that, isn't just necessarily like a verbal reaction, maybe the person just needs a hug or, or maybe the person just needs some connection and needs to know somebody cares. So maybe that could mean literally just going over and sitting at the same table as somebody that is sitting by themselves. Kind of like, when we were in elementary school and at the lunch tables, think about it like that. But, it's at the senior center lunch table or at the community center, table. But same kind of thing, just pay attention to who's maybe by themselves or who looks like they could maybe need some extra help, maybe carrying a bag or loading things into their car or something like that. Again, those, just regular, like meaningful extra ways that people, can go out of their way to really help someone feel seen and feel heard and feel acknowledged and feel supported will really help to reduce those feelings kind of isolation and will stimulate your brain, but also the other person's brain too, which is a beautiful thing. So, emotional well being. So, finally, social engagement supports emotional health and builds resilience and nurtures a sense of belonging, like I was saying, in purpose. And, um, I think the belonging part is key because so many people, especially as they age and have to try to make new friends and are in new environments, can have a lot of anxiety about maybe being judged or having to start all over with different connections and trying to, again, make friends. So just trying to be cognizant of that, I think for yourself and others around you is huge. So if you're looking for a place to start, again, big takeaway, I would consider a local senior center activity, a book club. Maybe it might be like a faith community gathering or even um, a local place like a Silver Sneakers or something like that you can get into and do a little bit of exercise with some people. But, it can't even just be a simple regular phone call with a family or friend. The format of what you're going to do here matters less than just the consistency of actually doing it and just putting it in your schedule. Physical activity. So let's move on to something that benefits both the brain and the body. Physical activity. So boosts brain function. Exercise, as we know, increases blood flow to the brain and all the parts of your body and stimulates the release of growth factors in endorphins and kephalins and all these really awesome, great, happy feel hormones in your body and in your brain that help to support new neural connections and happy, positive feelings and thoughts. So, in other words, the brain literally helps to build new pathways when you are actively moving around and getting in some of that physical activity. Physical activity also helps to reduce stress and improve sleep. Regular physical activity lowers those stress hormones and promotes restful, deep sleep. It also will help support emotional balance and resilience as well. And as we learned earlier, managing stress is directly tied to protecting your memory. Memory and mood benefits. So, consistent exercise is linked to improved memory retention, sharper focus, and a more positive, stable mood over time. This doesn't mean that you can or you need to run a marathon. A daily walk, some light stretching, gardening, or a gentle exercise class can make all the meaningful difference. And again, the goal is just consistency. Like you don't have to do it perfect. You don't have to, always, well, I should say this. When you show up, some days you're not always going to feel like, you can give 100% effort. But I don't want that to limit you from showing up, even if you're having a 70% kind of a day, as we all do. Maybe it's a 45%, kind of a day. But, even if your day is going a little flat and you're feeling a little blah, and you're not, 100% functioning on all cylinders that day, it's still okay. And sometimes that's even better time to do it. So, again, I would absolutely, encourage you to just move and, get out there and just be consistent with it and just consistently show up. And in one of the other presentations, I talked about, doing our little acts of kindness and stuff, right? So looking at who around you, can you do neat little random acts of kindness for, or just acts of kindness in general, besides people doing acts of kindness back towards you. But this right here, this physical activity part, especially in this category, is one of those perfect opportunities for you to do an act of kindness for your own body, for you to choose you and make, activity part of making your own health and your brain health and your physical health and all the things a priority. And it is just beautiful when you guys are able to do that. So I would absolutely challenge you to try to get physical activity incorporated into your daily schedule. Okay, so, oh boy. Okay, so next. Okay, so next, what I want to do is just take a moment here to recap everything that we covered today. Okay, so it was a lot. It was a lot of good stuff. So we learned about the power of music and, and remembrance and the benefits of reading and puzzles, the value of learning new skills. So again, whether you're learning new skills, by yourself or you're doing it in a group setting, I just want you, again, just to get out there and start doing something. But we also talked about how physical activity supports both your brain and also your mood, which is very important. And, what I hope you take away from this is, your brain wellness isn't about just necessarily doing one big, huge thing, right? It's really about like weaving in a lot of small, just meaningful habits into your everyday life. And again, you will hear me say this again and again and again, just schedule it. You have to just figure out a way, again, look at all the different pieces and things that we talked about as potential options that you could incorporate into your daily life and just get them in there. Just figure out during your day when you could plug some of the different ones in as options and just start doing it and start doing it if not daily, at least a couple of times a week. And over time you're going to notice a huge difference, I think, in just kind of putting some of those meaningful habits in. So I'd encourage you, again, just take some time this week, pick just one of the activities, that's it, that we talked about. And again, maybe that's just putting on some music from, back in your day, from the era that you came from, something that you absolutely loved or, that was inspiring to you. Maybe it's calling a friend or just taking a short walk, but give something a try. And just small, simple steps, like I said, just little small things can definitely add up over time. So next in our final presentation that we'll be doing in the next presentation, since this was part 3, that's going the next and final presentation on mood, memory, and meaning is going to be part 4. And so in the part 4, we are going to turn our attention to something many of you might find also especially meaningful. And that's going to be ways to support our loved ones who might be experiencing memory or mood changes. We're going to talk about how to respond. Like we talked about a little bit. We touched on it just a little bit in this presentation, but we're going to talk about it more in part 4 how do we really respond with patients? And how do we encourage conversations and evaluations when they're getting to the point where like, something, is a little bit more accelerated from there might be a problem standpoint, like happening that we actually might need to get checked out. So we're going to talk through that. How do you encourage evaluations to be done when you're kind of to the point that we might need to bring in, a medical, some medical teams to be able to check out the situation a little bit more and offer support. Like, how do we do that? How do we offer support without shame, or fear or causing anxiety for everybody in the whole entire family and, everyone around that person as well. So I hope you will join us for that final part 4 conversation. And again, I just want to thank you all for being here today with me. And if you found this series helpful, please follow Aging Advantage on Facebook. And also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so that you don't miss part 4, as well as, all the other incredible educational opportunities and topics that we have discussed over the year. So again, thank you again, and please take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time.